we always hear about, or rather from the Israelis, saying that Palestinians use their own people as human shields, right? How many times have we heard that? Let me show you the new policy in Israel. So apparently Israelis are banned from leaving. Why? Well, we'll get into that. But here's, you can hear directly from the Transportation Minister, Miri Regev.
חשוב לי להבהיר, אנחנו לא נאשר יציאות של ישראלים לחול בשלב זה. מי שיוצא לחול הם אותם אנשים שהגיעו לבקר בארץ, אם זה תיירים, אם זה תגלית או דיפלומטים שיחזרו לארצם, אבל הם לא אמורים לחזור לארץ בקרוב. חשוב לי להבהיר.
Yeah, and this is confirmed, right? You can see here in Haaretz, Israel prohibits airlines from letting Israeli citizens leave. Okay, here's, forgive me, I'll just move that aside. Yeah, so even once repatriation flights begin. So they say the directive is meant to prevent overcrowding at Ben Gurion Airport. That's the main international airport. Of course, Palestinians are not allowed to have airports. They shut them down. So, you know, there's been a multitude of reactions to this. A multitude. One reaction that I saw was that you had someone with 4 passports. Yeah, really, like with and then someone commented on that, like, well, why do you have so many passports? And then Israelis kind of just like doubled down and said, well, you're just jealous. Why am I raising this? Well, not all Israelis have multiple passports, but many of them do. And you know, I could just give you an example. When I did a report, for example, on the Olympic team, I counted a lot of dual citizens, a lot, and you know, all of them were Ashkenazi, so like European, Eastern European, not Semitic. And you know, the point being that, well, if Zionism is a settler colonial issue, meaning these are settlers, they're colonizers, they've come to steal the land, to exploit it, to live on it, then, you know, you could, people raise the obvious solution to that, well, just go home, right? Then there wouldn't be a conflict, right? It's not the same thing as being anti-immigrant, because immigrants come legally to the country, right? But the settler colonialism is obviously not legal. You know, there are numerous United Nations General Assembly resolutions against it. You know, many countries actually after World War II gained their independence as the result of anti-colonial movements. Unfortunately, Palestine, you know, fell in the opposite. Well, basically came out with the opposite fate. Now, you can see here basically that, you know, just Israelis, they're leaving the country by boat now because they cannot get out via the airport. As you saw the transportation minister saying that it's only allowed to leave, you're only allowed to leave, it's only permitted if you're a diplomat or a tourist. And so that's why people are pulling out their other passports, you know, from Poland or Mexico or whatever. And Mike Huckabee, actually the US ambassador to Israel, suggested the other day on Twitter that you have 700,000 Americans in Israel. 700,000. I thought it was 200,000. I couldn't find any information supporting his claim. I mean, 200,000 is already quite considerable, but you know, I'll take him at his word. He is the ambassador. He should know. I mean, ambassadors don't typically deal with consular services. That's the consul, but nevertheless, you know, I'm assuming that figure was stated for a reason. And my point being that is nuts. That is really nuts, you know, especially if Israel is such a tiny country or entity. Well, you know, I mean, Americans already are colonizers. What are they doing in a second colony, right? It's a bit selfish because you've seen many Israeli politicians, the cabinet themselves, coming out and saying we want to repatriate, meaning ethnically cleanse Palestinians and kick them out of their land in Gaza so we can take it over with Jewish settlements. And they've had conferences about this. This is all, you know, these are all public facts. That can be, facts that can be publicly verified. So, you know, it's a bit selfish to steal someone's land in the first place, but especially when you can actually just leave, you know, easily at any time. And Palestinians, on the other hand, don't have airports, as I pointed out. They cannot leave by sea from Gaza because they're under siege. They're under blockade since 2007, with Egypt's help, I should add. And of course, you know, they cannot leave through the land crossings either. Even the United Nations and aid organizations can barely get into Gaza to help. Never mind Gazans leave. I mean, there was a short period where you could, but you know, you had to sell a kidney basically to afford it. So, you know, it's not an option. It's not an option. You're besieged, and the only way you can leave as the Israelis have publicly announced, and this was also confirmed early on after the genocide began by the security ministry in Israel, that they want to pay people to leave. So you can leave Gaza at some point in the future if you don't end up being killed first by Israel. If you take a bribe and basically concede and forsake your own land, which is probably worth or priceless basically. So yeah, I think that is important. But going back to the main issue, which is the human shields, right? Which we've heard so many times. Every time Israel is asked to explain the ratio, the mountain of corpses that have piled up as a result of their so-called defensive action, they always come back to these same arguments. Well, there was a military post there. They used it as a compound, as a military compound. The hospital was being used as a military compound. They used their own people as human shields. They like martyrdom. They're obsessed with death. Whatever racist or xenophobic or Islamophobic comment they have to put out, they will do it. So it begs the question. It begs the question: were they lying, and are they being hypocrites? I think the answer might be a yes, right? It certainly seems that way. And here you can see another confirmation that only, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, only diplomats and tourists are allowed to leave. Well, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? I think the answer is that they need the colony to stay alive, and you already have a lot of Israelis that left prior. You had, I think, already in November 2023, you had 500,000 Israelis who had left. 500,000. Those are, again, official figures from Haaretz or Times of Israel. It was one of the Israeli outlets. I think it was Haaretz. Okay, you can go and check it. I'm certain of it. And you're seeing Israelis basically leave like this now. They're taking buses to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt or Cairo or whatever, and then kind of just leaving by plane via Cairo, which is interesting because if you are one of the people who tried to participate in the march for Gaza in Egypt, going from Cairo to Rafah, you're not allowed to do that, right? Isn't that funny? You had activists, journalists, human beings who just don't like genocide coming from all over the planet to participate, and they had their passports taken from them. They were blocked by the police, by the security services, by the mukhabarat, and told to fuck off, basically. Because solidarity with other Arabs is apparently not in. But if you're an Israeli and you want to leave via land, via Egypt is wide open. Go ahead. Isn't that funny? Isn't that interesting? How complacent and how subservient Egypt is. It's very, very. It's a far cry from Nasser's Egypt, right? I think we can all agree on that. So you have clips like this, where you have Israeli settlers, European, Polish, whatever, just like basically getting on board these buses in Tel Aviv, and then going to the Sinai Desert in Egypt, which is, by the way, where they want to dump Palestinians like boxes or cargo or something. Like, they're not human beings. That's part of their ethnic cleansing later. And yeah, apparently the Polish embassy led this particular endeavor that I'm about to show you on video.
So if we're Polish running away from the government.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's nothing like necessarily that crazy about it. It's just a video of people leaving, evacuating a war zone. That's the normal human reaction is to leave a war zone. Yes, unfortunately, but I don't think that's really the point here. It's kind of like what I was saying the other day, where you have this the privilege, quote unquote, right? It's not literally a privilege, but colloquially or figuratively speaking, I'm trying to draw a contrast here. You have the privilege, so to speak, of hiding in a shelter in Israel, whereas if you're a Palestinian Israeli or an Arab Israeli, you don't. Or if you're simply a Palestinian in Gaza or the West Bank, you don't. You're deprived of that amenity. And you have the privilege or the possibility of leaving, even despite the travel ban, or the flight ban, I should say, because obviously it's not applicable to all travel. Bus and boat is still available. whereas Palestinians cannot leave Gaza. They are besieged. They are trapped, via land, via sea, via air. Yeah, I think that this is an important contrast to draw. I don't think there's anything biased about that in the slightest. It's simply a fact. I'm showing you video evidence of it, and you have here, you can see people. I don't know if these are Israeli citizens. It's not clear from the video, but these are people who did leave via boat. So you have Israelis or people who are, I'm assuming they're Israelis just because of the fact they didn't take a plane, right? Because if they were not Israeli, as the transport minister said, they can leave by plane. Obviously the airport in Ben Gurion is shut, most of the time because of the strikes. But these people seem to have left by boat purposely because they're not allowed to travel via plane, because the Israelis need to keep the colony full. And you'll remember, this is not something that's kind of a hypothetical, like, well, of course they want to keep the population up. I think every country in the world would agree. But no, you have to understand. And Ilan Pape, who's Jewish historian, I interviewed him about, we talked about lots of things on the channel. But, when I asked him about why Israel went around attacking Arab Jewish communities, like they depleted the community in Damascus, in Iraq, in Egypt, in Yemen, they destroyed these communities on purpose. And I'm paraphrasing here, but this is his point, is that not enough white or Ashkenazi, meaning European Jews, moved to Israel. And so they needed to populate the colony with Arab or Sephardic or Mizrahi Jews, basically Middle Eastern, Jews, brown Jews, like Semitic ones, from Syria, from Iraq, from Egypt, from Yemen, the original Jews. And so they attack those communities. They use sanctions, they use pressure from the Americans, bombs, grenades, whatever. They exploited them, they stole their babies. I mean, these are not examples that I'm making up. These are facts. So, my point is, we've seen the Israelis, the Zionists, really make the effort of actually murdering and attacking other Jews. They claim to be a Jewish state and that they're safe for Jews, but they have murdered and attacked Jewish communities just for the sake of populating the colony. So this really shouldn't surprise anyone that they are concerned about the colony depleting itself, and people leaving because of the war, which is of course a normal human reaction to war, no matter what ethnicity or religion you are. So anyway, I'll just play this clip right here. I just want to make that point.
It was scary. It wasn't easy. Definitely was a little anxious at the start. When you first heard that first siren, it was very new to me. I never heard of this stuff, and to the people that live in Israel, it's a daily thing. So for them, they all were very calm. I'm heading home, heading back to New York. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we're back by tonight. Got to get some sleep. It's been a long 72 hours for us. The cruise was great. Everything about it was awesome, but it's time to go home.
Right now, I'm very happy to be in Cyprus and get home safe to my family. In Israel, it's very scary. We didn't sleep for nights on end. We were all very exhausted, and this is a sigh of relief. In Israel, I was very afraid. I'm never used to anything like that, sirens or missiles or anything. New York is pretty much very safe, and it was very new to me.
I wanted.
Yeah, I can't tell from this video if these are just tourists, and if they are, why did they leave by boat? Because the flight ban doesn't apply to them. I really don't know. But I think it's interesting, this doesn't change anything of what I just said, that they closed the airport. I think the real reason is obviously to limit, not brain drain or flight but basically they just don't want the colony being depleted. It's a settler colony. So, the foundation of it is people, literally. Or actually, the foundation of it is racism and land theft of any colony, really. But you understand my point. You need that human capital, right? I mean, any country does, but especially a settler colony, it's nothing without people. So it makes sense that they would impose these kind of bans. I'll let the video finish, of course.
I wanted to say on behalf of everyone here how grateful we are for the rescue, for the enormous efforts that have been made to get us out, and that we recognize that we're some of the luckiest people in the world. And right now there are millions of people who are either trapped in war zones or who are fleeing through ways that are much, much more dangerous than what we're doing. And that I'm thinking of people in Israel, in Gaza, in Iran, in Syria, in every unsafe place around the world, and I hope that everyone one day has access to the kind of resources that we've been given here, and a chance for safety and freedom.
the first few days were fine. We're all having fun. All of a sudden, we were in Tel Aviv. It was 3 a.m. and we started hearing sirens in the sky. So we went to the bomb shelter. From there, every single day, we've been hearing sirens, missiles over us. It's been a little scary, but since we're on the group together, we've been helping each other, trying to stay positive. So overall, we're doing okay, but we're ready to come.
Yeah, one of you in the comments is suggesting that these are birthright tourists. So for those of you who don't know what a birthright tourist is, this is really funny. So the Israelis have something called the birthright program, which well, I mean, as the name implies, they they feed basically, Jews around the world this idea that they have a birthright, as the name implies, to steal land in Palestine. That's really, really what it comes down to, and it starts with, it's basically an indoctrination program. It's like, well, come and take a look, just, come for a short trip, see if you like it, see if you want to consider moving and joining the Tzahel, which is the Israeli army, the IDF. I can't confirm if these are actually birthright tourists. I really don't know. Could be. But again, I don't understand why they were forced to leave by boat. Maybe just because Ben Gurion's closed. I mean, that also makes sense. That's really not my main point. But it's still noteworthy. It's still newsworthy. I wanted to show it to you nevertheless. And actually, there's more stuff I want to show you over here. This is, people have kind of, it's not really that important. It's just like a clips of Israelis leaving. I mean, we saw much more chaos at Ben Gurion in the past, but Ben Gurion's closed. So yeah, my point here is really that it's about the human shields. This is really because we hear so much about this in Arabic, Israeli Arabic propaganda, language propaganda, in Zionist German propaganda or French. Because I watch the news in all these languages, and I've heard this. You've probably heard this too. This lie repeated enough times, and even if it's not a lie, let's say for a second, let's argue, just from a logical point of view. Let's say Israel's telling the truth. Let's say Hezbollah and Hamas, they really use human shields. Okay, fine, we accept hypothetically, right? Well, why are you using human shields? Doesn't that make you a hypocrite? Right? Even if we accept what you're saying, doesn't that make you hypocritical? That you would force Jews to stay in a war zone? I mean, how do you argue then? So that's hypocrisy number one. And then here's the other part of hypocrisy. How do you say that this is the safest place in the world for Jews and you're putting their lives at risk? This is a contradiction. This is a contradiction. And many Jews, some of them Israeli, some of them not Israeli, have said that Israel is the most dangerous place in the world for Jews. And they're right. They're right. Why would you go to a war zone? Like what is like so important that you have to go to the war zone and steal someone else's land? I mean, this hypocrisy needs to be pointed out. There's a glaring contradiction here, and it's important to point out why. Not because whatever convictions they or views they think I hold. No. It's because Israeli officials, all of them, at the cabinet level, the spokespersons, the military, the civil society, all of them have repeated this mantra, that for decades, that Arabs use other Arabs as human shields. Particularly, they're talking about Palestinians, and this actually predates Hamas and Hezbollah. It predates, so nothing to do with these groups. So, and they say this about Iran as well. They say, well, I guarantee you, go and look it up. You will see it about Iran right now. I promise you. They say the same thing. Well, Iran is using its people as human shields. And then they say 1 second, we have nothing against the Iranian people, and then the next they sound French, the Israelis sometimes, I know. And then the next they say, want Tehran to burn. Which one is it? These are contradictory statements, aren't they? You can't say we like Iranians and then we want the whole population we want the main city to burn, and you can't say this is the safest place for Jews, and then you force them to stay under a barrage of missiles. Regardless who started the war, and whether you think the Israelis deserve it, don't deserve it. I'm not talking about this. I'm not addressing that. It's just there's a hypocrisy here at play. You understand? It's not safe. Obviously, that's why people are fucking fleeing, right? So and they don't want to admit this. Why? Because it puts into question it questions the entire premise of Zionism, right? It puts it in a difficult predicament and in an impossible position where it can't justify its own existence, right? Does that make sense? Of course it bloody does. Anyway, I think we're done on that point.